Hey, this is Alice from ScrapBookWonderland.com and the ScrapHappy membership group. And today I am going to create a layout using a kit for the design team of the Urban Scrapbook. Now, the Urban Scrapbook is a local scrapbooking store in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And this month, Nicole has asked me if I would like to design with their team. And I'm like, I would be honored. That would be so cool. So I have my kit. I'm going to show you what's in the kit, and then I'm going to get to scrapbooking and I will show you what I create with it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. First, let's take a look at what's in the kit. We're going to start with a little bit of fiber, this like blue, it's like a light blue, really dusty blue kind of color, which is super sweet. There is a length of some brown ribbon. And then we have some chipboard gears, and I love the look of these gears. There's a couple smaller ones, a couple medium-sized ones, and bigger one. So that should be cool. And then there's some fancy paper. There is a 6-inch by 12-inch piece of this metallic gold paper, and it kind of has the like embossing on it, so you can kind of see the texture of that. So that's really neat. And then we're getting into the paper. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets of pattern paper, and these are all from a collection from Graphic 45 called Imagine Collection. So here is the paper. Look how cool this is. I love the clock detail. There's like a house in the clouds. There's lots of little gears on here, which, you know, the gears kind of fits perfectly. There's like kind of this yellowy gold color on here. So you can see how all of those colors are pulled together from this collection. The back side is this nice stripe paper. And then we have another detail sheet, and this one here has like the hot air balloons, more roses, some butterflies. There's little teapots on there and lots of cool details. The back side is this cool butterfly with some clock faces, some like little stopwatches or whatever. And then this paper here has more of the colors. It's got some cool faces, more of the clocks. I personally love clocks, so I was really excited to see that in this collection. And it's just so easy to use, like with passing of time and different things like that, which I think is a really fun thing. The backside of this one is kind of like a orangey corally color, and it has the roses all over the back. And then we have like the strips kind of paper. So this one you could cut into strips and use it. And it features lots of the same thing, like the hot air balloons. You've got a few little words and sayings. Like here it says, "And so the adventure begins." And some stuff that looks like little postage stamps. So kind of fun. And then I love this so much. I love yellow for starters. And this yellow with the clocks. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would be surprised if that does not end up on my layout. And finally, another cut apart sheet, but it's like little cut apart cards. There's lots of fun sayings. I might find my title on here. Everything you can imagine is real. Beautiful dreamer, imagination, fly away. Time is flying, never to return. Life is about creating yourself. Spread your wings and soar. Create your own dream. Nothing happens unless we dream. Build castles in the air. So yeah, really fun things. And then the back has like, you can kind of see the like cloudy texture. Like look at the clouds. You don't even really notice it when you look at it, but when you kind of back up, you can see it. And then it has like little tiny dots, so which is great. Then we have a couple sheets of cardstock. There is a cream cardstock, and it's kind of textured, hard to see there. And there is a black. So that's what's in the kit. That's what I'm gonna play with, and I can't wait to see what I can create. Yay! Okay, see you soon, and here we go.
I think it's great how working with a kit can be such a challenge and it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. Honestly, Graphic 45 is not the first papers that I reach for when I'm looking for stuff to scrapbook with. And I have to say that cream-based papers are also not generally my favorite. But it was funny how, knowing that I was going to be playing with these products, I got really inspired about using them. So that's a great thing about using a kit. Inspired by the papers in the kit and the whole idea of building castles and then making dreams become a reality, I decided to scrapbook this aerial photo of our house that I had taken on a recent flight with my husband. Your home is your castle, right? I looked at the papers to see which one might go well with the photo, and I really love that yellow paper with the clocks on it, but I didn't really want to use it as my background paper. I wanted the layout to feel more fresh and bright than that. Because the Graphic 45 paper has such a grungy feel, I wanted to be able to find a way to make it brighter and lighter. And so I played around with some of my Distress Oxide inks to kind of test and see what those colors might look like if I put them onto the cream cardstock as part of the background. But I wasn't quite ready to commit to that until I had a better idea of what the layout was going to look like. So I started cutting up the cut apart sheet, specifically looking for words that really meant a lot to me and were the inspiration for putting this layout together. I chose cards that said, "Build castles in the air, everything you can imagine is real, and nothing happens unless first we dream." Now that I'm kind of building a cluster on the top left part of the page, I wanted something that was going to bring my eye across the page and really bring that whole layout together. So I cut a strip of the rose pattern paper, and I'm kind of laughing looking at it because it's blending in with my countertop. So then I look at that really fancy pattern paper, kind of like the whole, the designer paper from that pack. And it can be really hard to use paper like that, but I decided that I was going to just cut it up and use specific elements of it on my page. I cut out the gears from the corners of the page, and I cut out some butterflies, which I ended up actually not using, and I cut up a little clock face to include. So even though this kit didn't specifically include any embellishments, I used the pattern papers to create my own embellishments for the layout. I literally did not include anything other than ink that wasn't part of the kit. On this layout, I ended up using 4 different colors of Distress Oxides. I used Abandoned Coral, Mustard Seed, Frayed Burlap, and Broken China. After fussy cutting out a whole bunch of embellishments, I decided that they needed something to mat underneath them to support that whole layer of embellishments. So I cut the blue butterfly paper to support that along the left-hand side. Without the mat, the embellishments were kind of just floating there and they didn't feel connected together. And one of the things that makes the layout feel connected is by having everything touch and everything supported. Once I had everything kind of arranged, I realized we needed some more yellow, and now I could bring out that beautiful clock paper. I cut out some of the clocks into circles, and I was able to put those pieces underneath the blue chipboard gears that I had colored with the ink. Okay, well, I actually hadn't colored all of the gears yet because I didn't know how many I was planning to use and what colors they might work best at, but I colored the other 2 right away. To color the gears, I actually applied that Distress Oxide pad right onto the chipboard itself, and then I set it to the side to let it dry for a while. And when I was applying the ink, I didn't cover all of the chipboard, so you can actually see some of the chipboard coming up from behind the ink, and it looks really good and goes really well with that Graphic 45 paper. I trimmed down the strip of the pink rose paper, and then I took a quick photo of the layout to make sure that I could see what the arrangement was as I pulled everything carefully off to the side so that I could paint the background. To apply the paint to the background, I just rubbed the Distress Oxide ink in Abandoned Coral, in Mustard Seed, and then in the Broken China colors directly onto a craft mat, which I then used a little bit of water with the paintbrush to get it wet so I could smear it around on the layout. Now, when you look at what I'm doing, it just kind of looks like a hot mess, but you have to remember that most of that is going to be covered up and you're just going to see little hints of it sticking out and peeking out from behind the whole layout that I've created. And I realized that the yellow was a little bit too bright, so I mixed some of the frayed burlap brown color in with the yellow, and that kind of toned down the brightness of the yellow. Now I was able to actually start applying some of the layers to my background paper. Once all of the pieces were in place and I had everything kind of laid out how I wanted it, I realized that I needed to spread my L across the page with more dimension down on the right-hand corner. As I prepare to fill out that bottom corner, I get playful with my ribbon and my fiber. Well, sort of playful. I tried tying on the piece of ribbon that I trimmed off onto one of the gears, and then I didn't like it on that gear, so I moved it to the other gear, and I thought that was a lot better. And I was still looking at that blue twine thinking, what on earth am I going to do with this? I finally attach the pink rose strip and the brown ribbon to the layout. For the ribbon, I just wrap it around to the back and I use some scotch tape to stick it to the back of the page. I line everything up in the top left corner of the page, get the photo ready, and decide that it's time to prepare some more pieces to embellish the bottom right corner. I also pull out that gold foil paper so I don't forget to use it on the layout. I cut some more pieces from the cut apart cards, and then I cut some pieces out of the strip paper, which was actually the paper that had those yellow clocks on it. After arranging a few more pieces for that corner, I decided it was time to get using some of this gold. I cut a really thin strip of gold that I put right above that layer of brown ribbon. The strip was pretty thin, so I actually used a liquid glue to stick that down onto the page, whereas normally I would just use tape runner. Now that it was finally time to start sticking things down, I used a variety of different glues to stick things down in different layers and different heights to give the page a bit of dimension. So you'll actually see me use some liquid glue, a little bit of the sequin tape, paper tape, and then I also use a foam tape in addition to my tape runner. Using a bit of foam tape is a great way to give your layout some dimension without making it too bulky. I decided that since the large gear had the little bit of ribbon tied onto it, I should do something special with each of the other two gears. So on the first one, I wrapped the blue twine around the gear in between each of the teeth of the gear. Since I had already inked that gear to make it blue, and the little bit of twine was blue, it was kind of a more tone-on-tone monochromatic look, which just added a little bit of texture and interest. You may notice that the big gear is hanging over the edge of my paper. When I go to slip it into my page protector, I'll just trim the little bits of the gear off the page that hang over. And I swear I'm a magpie at heart because I love the gold and shiny things. I just love sparkle and glitter. But for this page, I have that beautiful gold shine paper. So I've cut a few little circles out of that paper using a 1-inch punch, and I've tucked them in just little places so you get that little hint of shine. And for the final gear, I decided to wrap some of that blue twine around one of the spokes a few times, and then I tie a cute little bow on it. To hold the bow in place and keep it tied, I dab just a little bit of liquid glue behind the center of the bow and stick that down. And for the finishing touch, I add my journaling. I like to write my journaling on a scratch piece of paper. Then I kind of count how many lines I'm going to need, and I usually add 1 or 2 extra lines. The journaling reads, "Every time Jonas and I fly over our house, it's thrilling to see the dream we imagined become a reality. We built our castle and made our dream come true." And finally, I was so happy that I actually remembered to put the date on the layout. I'm really bad for forgetting it, but I just used a date roller with a little bit of that frayed burlap ink to stamp the date on. So here's a look at the completed layout. I really like how it turned out, and I feel that it's still in my own style, even though I'm using paper that maybe is not the kind that I would normally pick up at the scrapbook store. I found that working within the confines of the kit forced me to get creative, and I really like some of the things that I thought of doing because I was using only these supplies. Honestly, I'm sure I've said a few times that I've never met a scrapbooking supply that I don't love, and this is the perfect example of why. You can see more ideas on how other people use this scrapbooking kit on the website for the Urban Scrapbook, which is urbanscrapbook.ca. And if you saw something that inspired you in this kit, pop into the store to see what they have, give them a call, or check out their website. For the Urban Scrapbook Design Team, this is Alice Bowl from scrapbookwonderland.com and the ScrapHappy membership group. Happy scrapping!